Okay, I've had a few people kind of ask about, I guess, my stage design process, so I figured I'd take a stab at putting together a quick tutorial, kind of what I go through. So I guess the first thing that I would kind of suggest doing is, setting up your toolbar. That's this thing here at the bottom. Basically, you're going to drag whatever you need onto the toolbar. I would kind of suggest a couple targets and some walls. So in this case, I've used 8-foot wall sections, 4-foot wall sections, some ports. I just grab a few targets. I usually don't think about partials yet until later. And then some barrels just for some vision barriers. Okay, so from here, I'll suggest that everybody, if you're kind of new to this, I really like this shape. So what I'm creating here is more or less an L-shaped section. This section is your friend. Reason being is it allows you to hide the targets, and basically I can create two positions that require or force competitors to basically move and engage targets from two different spots, right? So it's already creates two positions in the sense that a person would have to shoot somewhere from over here. You have another position over here, right? And it nicely hides the targets. So if you kind of start with that, let's just see if we can kind of make something that seems like it would be usable. So let's just take the same thing, and what happens if I just copy and paste it and start moving it around? Right, let's just try putting that there. So right here, you can already see that you'd have two positions here, you'd have two positions here. And let's just do that again. And let's try to find something that might look kind of cool. Maybe I would take this. You can kind of open it up. And so already here we've kind of created one position here, we have a position here, it's still kind of only two positions, but we'll kind of go from there. I think I kind of just start building in things that kind of seem interesting to you, I suppose. I'll talk about why I placed that. Well, I can mention it right here. It's for a safe angle here. Without this wall, you could shoot it from beyond the 180. So just pop that down there. This could be in here. Something like this. Just drag it out there. Try condensing this to force this angle a little bit harder. Yeah, that kind of looks okay. I can kind of change the way that this target presents so that you can't see it at the same time. It's like T1, so T1 and T5. I can kind of control that with fault lines. So I get to fault lines a little bit later, but let's just get some things out here. Okay, so from here, just to help you visualize what's kind of happening, this target can be shot somewhere along here. This target can be shot somewhere along here. This target can be shot somewhere in here. This one can be shot from here. So this looks like just a hot mess of lines. But you can kind of see in some areas where it's going to overlap, and so you can kind of see some points that we must allow fault lines to get to. So kind of like roughly speaking, if we're starting here, we can start really adding fault lines even. And so I need some sort of fault line back here, all the way across, and anywhere in this zone you could actually be shooting. So in this case now, yeah, that looks pretty good. So that's starting to look like a framework of a possible stage, right? Yeah, that's hidden pretty well. I don't have any issues with safety. So once you've kind of created, I guess the bones, so you just have a few walls, some targets that require you to be in certain positions, and you can kind of start roughing out your where things overlap and getting fault lines down. You can now kind of transition from there and probably start thinking about like round count. So obviously here this is only 12 rounds, so let's just see if we can kind of beef this thing up into kind of a fun, at minimum I guess medium course, but let's see if we can get it up all the way up to maybe even like a long course. And I'm just going to assume that this is like a 3 berm bay. We'll just make that easy. So if it were a 3 berm bay, obviously we would want to shoot a little bit more into the 2 berms. Currently we're kind of shooting almost like this could be put on a 2 berm bay, but let's see if we can make something interesting that could be on a 3 berm bay. So we'll put a target here, another one here, which would be a safe angle issue, but I'll go into that in a moment. Let's maybe block this from back here, so it has to be shot from over here. Maybe use the same barrel to, and that's kind of cool. And we just have a lot of open space here in the middle. Something else to kind of point out is anytime that you have kind of targets in the midfield or kind of off the edges of the berm, these targets consume a lot of real estate. So I kind of look at the berms, the berm space as real estate. And so like this target T6 consumes a lot of, or a decent amount of berm space. So as you can see, as I kind of wiggle back and forth here, you can see how much of the back berm it takes. So it's effectively going to take from right now, I guess it could actually survive here, but here, let me visualize it maybe this way. This might be easier. So bullets would go anywhere from here to here. So you can see how like T6 needs to have all this space in the back. And so targets cannot be placed in that area. Otherwise you'll have shoot through problems. You can see how we can very quickly just add targets in, and you can start getting round count up pretty quickly. So that's kind of something just to be aware of and be careful of. Just thinking about placing a target here, but it just kind of doesn't feel good. Okay, and then let's just add in some poppers here. Popper could be there. Let's see what happens if I put a popper back here. here if I wanted to, so I could put another target here that pins you into there, that popper. Block it from this side. And it's starting to look like a reasonably healthy stage. So right here, like that popper's a shoot through that stick in T1. You can kind of control this also with the fault lines. This is kind of why I use the fault lines a little bit later, and I get the general shape that I'm going for done. It's maybe a little too close though, so let's just move that in there. Yeah, that's kind of good. Kind of feel like on this side, maybe we could have had like another target here or something. That's not gonna work. This target really doesn't feel like it really does much. Okay, let's just see. So this is 26 rounds. It's not terrible. Could double stack it and go from there. Okay, so let's just say that this was good enough. From here I would kind of like check all the safe angles. So basically what you're looking for, just make sure that nothing's really visible where you could break the 180, so we don't just trap a new shooter into doing something dangerous. In this case, like I've built enough of these that I can catch it usually pretty quickly, but it does happen. I would even go as far as saying that you should try to kind of get outside of the fault lines and see if there's just something that, through a lean, you can start seeing something that you don't like that becomes dangerous, or even potentially just I guess a design thing that you didn't want shooters to be able to do. So right here, actually I can kind of see it right here. And this is a problem to that popper. So let's move that, see if we can fix that. So from here, that's not a problem anymore. We're all okay there. Yeah, and that would fix it. So that's a perfect example. Okay, so we check for safe angles, and then from here, this is kind of where I guess the finishing touches get put in. So this is why I kind of suggest not necessarily thinking about partials or anything like that. Just design a stage that seems like it forces movement and positions that just feels good. So then we can work off of these bones, and we can now put on and kind of make the stage more interesting. So at this point, I would probably look at maybe just putting out partials. And when I kind of go into partials, I usually look for places where I think it might trap or bait people into making mistakes. And so what I mean by that is there's some positions, right, like right here, this target, or some of these targets that pin you to places. Those aren't necessarily the most interesting things that I put partials on, because you're going to be standing and shooting it. So all it does is it just slows people down. Now, if you want it to be more technical and you're looking for that, that would be fine. Right, so if I put a target here, all it does is purely slow people down. Now, if I put a target or a partial on a target like this, let me get this angle. I don't know why it's not snapping to it. That's weird. I guess I can force it. Okay, so if I put a target like this, a partial here, in my opinion, that's more interesting. A lot of shooters, if they're coming in from this side, will likely be shooting on the move. And so this creates a more interesting target presentation, as it makes it, it gives some risk here, right? And so I even consider, well, how much partial, right? If we were shooting at something like this, I don't know how many people were really going to want to take that on the move. And probably the wiser choice would be to shoot something else, maybe like T2 instead, and then you shoot into this. So that's a consideration too. So I would usually suggest that you kind of place it in a place, or the partial, in a way where you yourself might not feel comfortable doing it, or it might be like right at the spot where it would kind of make you nervous and have to really decide how you're going to do that. That's kind of a good way to find kind of a healthy balance between making it too easy and making it too hard. Similarly, something like this would be a good partial too. I don't know why this isn't staying. Something like that might be interesting. We could maybe even go into let's get some hardcover out here just to make it look nice. Alright, so it could be something like that. I would usually say that I don't like to use too many partials. Kind of think that excessive use of it just slows things down and makes it more technical. Now, of course, if you're trying to design a stage that forces technical shooting, then it's fine. But I think like a healthy balance is usually around that 30%, 30 to 40%. But anyways, that's kind of partials. So I usually put it on things where it creates a little bit of a challenge and more of a decision. It forces I guess competitors to make a decision on how they're going to handle the challenge. From there, I'd probably look at ways to make the stage, I guess, more like have more options. And so in that sense, I would look at like a start position. So sometimes you can use a start position at the end to try to determine, or I guess increase the likelihood that people would go in different directions, right? So a lot of times people like to just pick a start position in the middle, and I suppose that gets you left or right. But at that point, you can kind of just let people just start anywhere. But I usually try to pick a start position that kind of breaks all the conventional or like obvious stage plans that you might think that you are kind of designed around. So in this case, I didn't really have anything that I really wanted to do, but I don't like those targets exposed here. That's not so bad. But yeah, you can kind of pick a start position that kind of breaks all the stage plans, and if you can kind of find the spot where it makes you second guess what the obvious stage plan is for you, that's usually kind of a good place to be at. And then after you pick a start position or something like that, you can kind of add some gimmicks or props. So let's just say that we want to do like a bunch of barrels and then make everybody reload from barrels or something. You could start placing some barrels around or something, which I guess could be interesting. But yep, let's try to keep it there. Hopefully that's helpful to some people. If you have any questions, you can feel free to just hit us up and ask. All right, good luck, everybody.